Liam Whitmore had everything most people could only dream of. An empire built on high-stakes real estate, a last name that carried weight in the wealthiest circles of New York, and a stunning wife, Emily, who was expecting their first child. But behind the facade of power and prestige, a storm was brewing. Hidden in the shadows of his success was Celeste Romano, a woman who wasn't content with being a secret. She wanted more. She wanted Liam to walk away from his wife, to rewrite his future with her instead. Born into privilege, Liam grew up in a grand Manhattan estate, the pride of the Whitmore dynasty, whose influence stretched from Wall Street to luxury developments along the East Coast. The Whitmores were whispered about in elite social circles, linked to Hollywood stars, political leaders, and even European aristocracy. Tall, polished, and exuding effortless confidence, Liam was a man who played the game of power like a master. By 27, he had taken over the family business. By 32, he had multiplied their wealth, cementing his status as a millionaire husband and a force to be reckoned with. But beneath his composed exterior, Liam battled doubts he rarely let surface. Raised to be strong, to never falter, he found it difficult to expose any weakness. Some said he was cold, that he calculated every move with precision. But in reality, he longed for something real, something that wasn't dictated by business or reputation. That longing was what drew him to Emily, a woman so different from the world he knew. Emily Harper, now Emily Whitmore, was as grounded as Liam was privileged. Raised in a modest Boston neighborhood, she worked tirelessly to earn scholarships at Yale, juggling part-time jobs while dedicating hours to community outreach programs. There was a quiet elegance in her simplicity, a warmth that made her more radiant than any diamond. While Liam embodied power and prestige, Emily was the definition of loyalty and resilience. When they married, the whispers began. The elite doubted their union, convinced it wouldn't last. But Emily softened Liam in ways no one else ever had. She reminded him what it meant to feel, to be human, and when she told him she was pregnant, their world felt complete. Yet Liam's carefully constructed life was about to unravel. Despite the skepticism that surrounded them, Liam and Emily proved every critic wrong. Their bond was unwavering, a rare blend of passion and mutual respect. While he dominated the world of high-stakes real estate, she dedicated herself to philanthropy, using her newfound resources to support shelters, education programs, and struggling families. They became the couple everyone talked about, the ruthless businessman and the kind-hearted humanitarian, a perfect balance of power and grace. When Emily announced her pregnancy, their world seemed even more complete. Close friends and business associates celebrated the news, and even those who doubted their love couldn't deny the glow of happiness that radiated from them. Emily put her charitable work on hold, focusing instead on a healthy pregnancy, while Liam promised to be the devoted husband and father she deserved. But behind the closed doors of their luxurious penthouse, Liam wrestled with pressures he couldn't easily share. Running an empire came with relentless demands, endless negotiations, travel, and late-night meetings. He wanted to be there for Emily, to be the rock she needed, but the weight of expectations and the ever-growing pressures of business chipped away at him. And in his exhaustion, in his desperate search for an escape, the smallest spark would be enough to ignite a fire that could burn everything to the ground. That spark came in the form of Celeste Romano. A rising star in Whitmore Holdings' European division, Celeste was more than just intelligent. She was strategic, fluent in multiple languages, and ambitious enough to carve her own path into the elite circles of power. She had been with the company for only 6 months, but had already made an impression, not just for her financial acumen, but for her ability to navigate high society with ease. She knew the game, and she played it well. Liam met her for the first time at a corporate gala in Paris. The company had just secured a multi-million-dollar deal in the heart of the city, and celebrations were in full swing. The room buzzed with executives, champagne flowed freely, and amidst the chatter of billion-dollar transactions, Celeste stood out. Her dark, cascading hair framed sharp features, and the confidence in her posture made it impossible not to notice her. She moved through the crowd with ease, her designer dress hugging her frame just enough to turn heads, but not enough to appear obvious. She approached Liam effortlessly, a glass of champagne in hand, her voice smooth and poised. "Congratulations, Mr. Whitmore. Whitmore Holdings is making quite the name for itself across Europe." Liam turned, offering his signature smile, the one that had closed countless deals. "Thank you, Miss Romano," he said, switching to fluent Italian as he took her offered hand. "I hear great things about your work." Her eyes sparkled with intrigue. The game had begun. Liam had told himself it was nothing more than business, a casual exchange between an executive and a talented employee. Celeste was intelligent, well-spoken, and had an undeniable presence, but that was where it ended, or so he convinced himself. That night in Paris, their conversation had started with corporate strategies and market trends, but it had effortlessly shifted into lighter topics: hidden gems in Rome, overrated tourist spots, and favorite late-night cafes. At first it had been refreshing. Celeste wasn't intimidated by the weight of his last name, nor did she see him as just another powerful billionaire. She spoke to him as a person, someone carrying the immense burden of success. And after hours of champagne and effortless dialogue, something shifted. A connection, subtle but potent, sparked between them. It was invisible to everyone, but undeniable to the two of them. Nothing happened that night, at least, not physically. But before they parted ways, she handed him her number under the guise of work correspondence. He accepted it without hesitation, unaware that he had just allowed a dangerous door to open. Back in New York, Liam tried to focus on the life he had built. Emily's pregnancy was progressing beautifully, and she was glowing with anticipation. Their nights were spent picking out baby names, painting the nursery in soft, neutral tones, and dreaming about the future. She fell asleep each night, wrapped in contentment, never once suspecting that across the ocean, another woman occupied her husband's thoughts. Liam assured himself that his interest in Celeste was purely professional. She was ambitious, sharp, and undeniably skilled, exactly the kind of rising talent he encouraged at Whitmore Holdings. But the late-night messages started creeping in, first about work and then about things far more personal. At first, it was innocent. "Did you land safely?" she'd text after one of his business flights. "Hope today's meetings weren't too exhausting." But soon, the messages became something else entirely. "You ever feel like no one understands what you carry? I haven't been able to sleep. Maybe because I wish I wasn't alone tonight." Liam knew he should shut it down. He had a pregnant wife at home who adored him, a life most men would envy. But Celeste was exciting in a way that felt different. Her European charm, her raw ambition, the way she made him feel seen, not just as a CEO but as a man. One evening, after closing a major deal in Milan, Liam found himself in his luxury hotel suite, drained from the day but unable to sleep. His phone buzzed. "Celeste, are you still in Milan? I'm here for meetings. Maybe we should toast to your success." Liam hesitated. Then, as if pulled by something stronger than logic, he typed back, "Dinner sounds nice." Liam hesitated for a moment before replying. He knew better. He knew exactly what having dinner with Celeste could lead to, but he convinced himself it was harmless. A simple meal. Nothing more. But the night took on a life of its own. The upscale restaurant near Milan's historic center had a dim, intimate glow, the kind that blurred the lines between professional and personal. They talked over wine, their conversation flowing too easily, too naturally. By the time they stepped out into the cool evening air, a charge hung between them. She looked up at him, eyes filled with unspoken words, and then, one moment of weakness. A kiss, deep and urgent, just outside her hotel room door. Celeste's voice was a whisper against his skin. "Stay with me tonight." Every rational thought screamed at him to walk away. He could see Emily's face in his mind, her soft smile, the way she rested her hands over her growing belly. But the weight of success, the exhaustion, the loneliness, tonight, it all drowned out reason. He stepped inside. The next 3 nights in Milan passed in a blur of stolen moments and tangled sheets. By the time Liam boarded his flight home, regret crashed over him like a tidal wave. It had been a mistake, one he vowed never to repeat. He told himself it was a lapse in judgment, a moment of weakness he would bury and forget. But Celeste had no intention of being forgotten. The messages started almost immediately, casual at first, then laced with longing. Pictures, voice notes, reminders of nights he should have left behind. The more he tried to pull away, the harder she pushed. until the lines between never again and just one more time became dangerously thin. Then she showed up in New York. Under the pretense of corporate training, Celeste maneuvered her way into Whitmore Holdings headquarters, ensuring she'd be close enough to remind Liam of what they'd shared. When he saw her standing in his office, poised in a tailored navy dress, that same confident smile curving her lips, his pulse hammered. She had brought the affair into his world, into the life he was desperately trying to protect. Emily, meanwhile, began sensing a shift. Liam left home earlier, returned later, and was constantly glued to his phone, offering vague excuses about pressing company matters. She wanted to believe him, she needed to. But a woman's intuition is rarely wrong. Seeking reassurance, she confided in Liam's sister, Olivia Whitmore. Protective of her brother, Olivia tried to dismiss Emily's fears, reminding her that high-stakes business came with relentless pressure. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping between her fingers, that the millionaire husband she trusted was keeping secrets from his pregnant wife. And soon, those secrets would come to light. Emily hadn't planned to visit Liam's office that day, but an impulse led her there. She wanted to surprise him with lunch, his favorite Asian fusion dish, neatly packed in a bento box. The scent of sesame and ginger filled the air as she walked through the sleek, glass-paneled corridors of Whitmore Holdings. As she neared his office, she slowed. Muffled voices carried through the heavy oak door. Liam's deep, steady tone and a woman's voice, smooth with a faint European accent. Emily's breath hitched. She couldn't make out the words, but the warmth in their exchange was undeniable. It wasn't the clipped professionalism of a typical business meeting. It was something else. A gnawing unease settled in her stomach. Instead of barging in, she stepped back into a nearby alcove, just as the office door swung open. Celeste Romano emerged. Emily froze. The woman was striking, polished, confident, the kind who moved through the world as if it belonged to her. She held her phone loosely in one hand, a small smirk playing on her lips. For a fleeting second, their eyes met. Neither spoke. The silence between them held an edge, a quiet tension thick enough to suffocate. Then, as if dismissing Emily entirely, Celeste turned and strode away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Emily inhaled sharply, steadying herself before stepping into Liam's office. Liam glanced up, surprise flashing across his face before he quickly masked it with a bright smile. "Emily, what are you doing here?" She set the bento box on his desk, watching him carefully. "Who was that?" Liam hesitated. "Too long." "Celeste," he finally said, his voice smooth but too rehearsed. "She's part of our European expansion team, just in town for some meetings." Emily forced a nod, pretending to believe him, for now. But something in her gut told her the truth was far more complicated. Meanwhile, Celeste had her own plans. She had no interest in being a passing affair, a whispered secret in Liam Whitmore's life. No, she wanted more. She wanted a place in his world, not as an outsider, but as the woman by his side. She knew Emily was pregnant, which made things more delicate. But Celeste had never been one to back down from a challenge. If she couldn't charm Liam into leaving his wife, she'd find another way. Strategically placing herself at high-profile events, ensuring the paparazzi caught them in the same frame, sending cryptic messages that kept Liam on edge. Each move was calculated. And it was working. Liam, the millionaire husband with a pregnant wife, found himself spiraling. He had built an empire, controlled boardrooms full of ruthless executives, yet he couldn't seem to control the chaos unfolding in his personal life. One wrong move, and everything would collapse. Emily had learned to trust her instincts, and they were screaming that something was wrong. At first, it was small things. Liam's distracted demeanor, the way his phone was always face down on the table, the sudden urgency in his business trips. But then, she found receipts in the pocket of his coat. Luxury hotels in cities he wasn't supposed to be in. Credit card statements showing expensive dinners he never mentioned. She confronted him once, twice, but Liam had mastered the art of half-truths. "It's just business," he'd say with a reassuring smile. "You don't need to worry about it." But Emily wasn't a fool. The emotional weight of suspicion made her pregnancy more stressful than it should have been. She lay awake at night, one hand on her belly, wondering if she was imagining it all, if the man she loved was still the same man, or if he was slipping through her fingers. Finally, she decided to stop second-guessing herself. If there was a truth to uncover, she would find it. A friend discreetly recommended a private investigator, Michael Torres. He was known for being both efficient and ruthless in uncovering secrets. The first time they met, he was direct. "Mrs. Whitmore, I know this isn't easy, but if there's something to find, I'll find it." Emily steeled herself, guilt gnawing at her for spying on her own husband, but she had to protect herself. She had to protect their child. Meanwhile, Liam was juggling two lives, unaware that someone was watching his every move. Celeste wasn't the type to wait in the shadows forever. One evening, she cornered him at an upscale restaurant in Soho, her crimson dress a deliberate choice. Bold, impossible to ignore. She sat across from him, wine glass in hand, a smile playing at her lips. "I can't keep sneaking around like this," she said, her voice low, intimate. "You keep telling me to be patient, but I deserve more than stolen nights in hotel rooms." Liam's stomach twisted. He glanced around, hoping no familiar faces would recognize him. "Celeste, you know my situation. Emily is pregnant. I can't." She cut him off, her eyes flashing. "Stop using that as an excuse. You told me you were unhappy, that you don't feel alive anymore. Now's your chance to change that." Liam exhaled sharply, trying to stay composed. "Look, let's talk about this rationally. I never said I was leaving my wife. She's carrying my child. I won't abandon her." Celeste leaned in, her voice laced with frustration. "So you want me to stay your secret? I won't. Either you leave her, or I'll make sure everyone knows about us, including her." Liam's pulse pounded. "Are you blackmailing me?" She smirked. "It's not blackmail if it's the truth." For the first time in his life, the millionaire husband who controlled boardrooms and commanded respect found himself utterly trapped. Liam had built his career on negotiation, on staying one step ahead of every crisis. But for the first time, he was completely out of moves. Celeste had left their last conversation furious, and he knew it was only a matter of time before she struck back. What he didn't know was that Emily was already uncovering the truth on her own. Michael Torres had done exactly what he was hired to do: follow Liam's every move, document every secret. Over 2 weeks, he pieced together a damning collection of hotel surveillance footage, dinner reservations, and photos of Liam and Celeste locked in intimate moments. There was no room for doubt. Emily met Torres in a dimly lit cafe, her hands shaking as she flipped through the evidence. Each image felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest. Liam with Celeste at an upscale boutique, his hand on the small of her back. A hotel timestamp showing them slipping into a suite after midnight. Every lie he had told unraveled before her eyes. Torres exhaled. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'll keep this between us, but you deserved the truth." Emily swallowed hard, blinking away the tears threatening to spill. "Thank you," she murmured before walking out, her entire world collapsing around her. That evening, she waited in the living room, a stack of photographs spread across the coffee table. When Liam stepped inside, setting his briefcase down, his face paled at the sight before him. Emily's voice was quiet but sharp. "So it's true. All of it." Liam felt the air leave his lungs. He opened his mouth, but no excuse could undo what lay in front of them. The argument escalated quickly, voices rising, accusations cutting deep. Staff members slipped away, unwilling to witness the storm unfolding behind closed doors. Then, suddenly, Emily gasped, her hand flying to her swollen belly. A sharp pain shot through her, her breath hitching. Liam's anger vanished in an instant. He was at her side in seconds, helping her lower onto the couch. "Breathe, Emily. Just breathe." His voice was panicked, his hands shaking as he called the doctor. Minutes later, the physician arrived, checking Emily's vitals. "She's under too much stress," he warned. "If this continues, we could be looking at early labor." Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but she forced herself to meet Liam's gaze. "It's over," she whispered, her voice thick with betrayal. "Our marriage, our happiness, I don't see how we come back from this." Liam opened his mouth to speak, but guilt choked his words. For the first time, he truly grasped just how much he had to lose. That night, he couldn't bring himself to face her. He spent the night in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, drowning in regret. By morning, he found Emily in the nursery, her hand tracing the half-painted walls, the unfinished crib standing as a stark reminder of what was slipping away. The millionaire husband who once had everything, was now watching it all fall apart before his eyes. Emily stood in the nursery, her back to Liam, her fingers tracing the delicate edges of a half-assembled crib. She looked drained, her eyes red-rimmed, her shoulders stiff with exhaustion. Liam approached cautiously, swallowing hard. "Emily," he started, but she didn't turn. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but razor-sharp. "How long has it been going on?" A lead weight settled in his stomach. There was no point in lying now. He took a breath, steadying himself. "A few months," he admitted. "It started as just messages and calls. Then it crossed a line. I was weak, stressed." That was the wrong thing to say. Emily spun around, her fury cutting through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare blame this on stress." Her voice cracked, raw with betrayal. "You had an affair, Liam, while I was carrying our child." He reached for her hand, but she jerked away. "I never wanted this," he said desperately. "I love you, Emily. I truly do." Her eyes burned. "You love me? You have a hell of a way of showing it." Before Liam could say another word, a presence filled the doorway. His mother, Evelyn Whitmore, had arrived, likely tipped off by concerned staff. Her expression was unreadable as she took in the wreckage of their marriage. Rumors had already spread through New York's elite. But seeing the devastation on Emily's face, Evelyn knew the whispers were true. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the room and wrapped Emily in a gentle embrace. "We'll figure this out," she murmured. "I'm here for you, no matter what." Emily stiffened, then slowly nodded. For the first time since the affair came to light, she felt a sliver of support within the Whitmore family. Liam, however, was speechless. Shame clawed at his throat. He had built a career making impossible deals, controlling every outcome. But now, everything, his marriage, his family, his future, was slipping through his fingers. He had to put an end to this. But while Liam was scrambling for a way to salvage what remained of his life, Celeste had other plans. She was tired of waiting. Their last conversation had left her furious, and she had no intention of being discarded like some forgotten secret. That night, she sent Liam a message. "We need to talk." Now, Liam groaned when he saw it. Ignoring her would only make things worse. Hours later, they met in a lavish penthouse overlooking Manhattan, the same place where stolen moments had turned into reckless nights. Celeste paced the room, her stilettos clicking against the marble floor. When Liam entered, she didn't waste time. She tossed a thick envelope onto the glass table. "You think you could walk away from me that easily?" Liam's blood ran cold. Inside the envelope were photos, intimate, damning, undeniable. Evidence of their affair in Milan, in Paris, even in New York. She had been prepared for this moment all along. The millionaire husband who had spent his life controlling every narrative now found himself at the mercy of a woman who refused to be erased. Liam's pulse pounded as the stack of photos hit the glass table with a sharp slap. Celeste leaned in, her voice laced with venom. "You think I'm bluffing?" The images spilled out before him, each one a carefully captured moment of his indiscretion. A stolen kiss in Milan, his hand resting on her lower back in Paris, their bodies too close in a dimly lit bar in Manhattan. "I can ruin you," she whispered, her gaze burning into him. "Destroy your company. Crash your stocks. Drag your name through the mud, and I will, unless you do exactly what I want." Liam felt the blood drain from his face. "Celeste," he said, voice tight, "I told you I would handle this." Her expression hardened. "Your wife is pregnant, and yet you're still with her. You swore to me that you'd leave her, that you'd never felt more alive than when you were with me." She let out a bitter laugh. "Was that just a lie? Just something to get me into bed?" Liam raked a hand through his hair, frustration rising. "It's complicated. The baby changes everything." His voice dropped, strained. "I can't just walk away." Celeste's lips curled in disgust. "So you're choosing her, the child, and a life of boredom." "I'm not choosing anything yet," Liam shot back, struggling to keep his composure. "But I won't abandon my family. Not like this." Her eyes flashed with rage, unshed tears glistening under the dim light. "Oh, now you have morals?" she hissed. "Where were they when you were in my bed, night after night?" Liam clenched his jaw, staring down at the photographs, knowing exactly how much damage they could cause. If she leaked them, they'd both be destroyed. The media would devour the scandal. Investors would panic. Emily, his pregnant wife, would be shattered. Celeste's voice softened, but the edge remained. "There's another way." He looked up, wary. If Emily divorces you first, we can be together publicly. No one will think you abandoned her. A slow smirk played at her lips. We could paint her as distant, cold, maybe even uninterested in you. People love drama, Liam. We can spin the story however we want. His stomach twisted. You're talking about fabricating lies to attack her. Celeste's eyes narrowed. Suit yourself. But if you don't leave her soon, I'll do what needs to be done. Her voice dropped to a chilling whisper. And my version of the story, it won't be kind to you. Liam turned and walked out, his entire world closing in around him. As the door shut behind him, Celeste sank onto the couch, tears streaking her face. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of fury. She wouldn't be discarded, not without a fight. Celeste hadn't expected to fall for Liam as deeply as she did. What had started as desire had twisted into something darker. Obsession, fueled by jealousy and a relentless hunger to claim the life she believed should be hers. Meanwhile, Liam returned home to the Whitmore estate, his mind clouded with dread. He found Emily in the library, the place she always sought refuge when the world became too much. She sat curled in the armchair, clutching a cup of tea, her hands trembling slightly. She looked fragile, and the sight of her like this, so unlike the strong, confident woman he had always admired, sent a fresh wave of guilt crashing over him. He sank into the chair across from her, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily, I need to tell you everything. She met his gaze but said nothing, so he told her. Every painful detail, how it started, how it spiraled, how Celeste was now threatening to go public with everything. Emily didn't cry, but he saw the devastation in her eyes. She was forcing herself to listen, to absorb every ugly truth he laid before her. When he finished, he leaned forward, desperation in his expression. Emily, I'm begging you. I made a terrible mistake, but I'll fix it. I swear I'll cut all ties with her. I just need time to handle this carefully. She raised a hand, silencing him. Her voice, when it came, was steady but laced with exhaustion. Do you think I care about a scandal right now? She shook her head, her expression unreadable. I'm worried about our child's future, Liam, about our family. You've destroyed my trust. How do I believe a single word you say? Liam felt like the ground beneath him was crumbling. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please, Emily. You have to believe that I love you. She let out a hollow laugh, her eyes haunted. Love isn't supposed to feel like this, like a nightmare I can't wake up from. She turned away, but he reached for her hand, and this time, to his relief, she didn't pull away. I understand, he whispered, but I won't leave you. I won't abandon our child. I'll protect us from her threats, no matter what it takes. Emily shut her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. The stress is unbearable, Liam. For the baby's sake, I need peace. She drew a shaky breath before adding, that means you handle Celeste, quickly, or I walk away. And don't think for a second that I'll let you forget your obligations to this child. Knowing he was out of options, Liam turned to the one person who could help him regain control, his family's attorney, Robert Ellsworth, a seasoned expert in crisis management. Ellsworth listened to Liam's predicament with a neutral expression before setting his hands on the desk. Liam, this is a disaster, but not an impossible one. The millionaire husband, who once thought he had it all, now found himself in a battle not just for his reputation, but for his family's survival. Robert Ellsworth adjusted his glasses, his expression unreadable as he reviewed the situation. Legally, Celeste has limited grounds for blackmail unless she can prove a crime, he stated. However, the scandal alone could cause irreparable damage to Whitmore Holdings, to your public image, and most importantly, to your marriage. Liam sat across from him, his jaw tight. Every word was true, and yet he hated being in this position, cornered, desperate, negotiating his own survival. We have options, Ellsworth continued. We can gather evidence of her own misconduct to neutralize the threat, or we can attempt to negotiate a settlement in exchange for her silence. Neither solution is ideal, but we must be pragmatic. Liam nodded stiffly, his stomach twisting at the thought of paying hush money. But what other choice did he have? There is one more approach, Ellsworth added. If you truly want to repair things with Emily, you need to make a public show of commitment. Interviews, events, charitable work, anything that reinforces your devotion to her. If Celeste does go public, it'll make her look less credible. Meanwhile, Celeste was growing impatient. She had sensed Liam pulling away, and she knew time was running out. Late that night, his phone buzzed with a new message. "I don't want your money. I want you." Attached were photographs, moments they had shared in secret, but now loaded like ammunition against him. Liam's pulse pounded. Blocking her number would do nothing. She would find another way. Then she escalated. Emily's phone rang, an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. A familiar voice slithered through the line. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." Emily's breath caught. "How dare you call me?" "Liam told me you two were practically separated, that you were only staying together for the baby." Celeste's voice dripped with false sympathy. "I see now that he lied to both of us." Emily's grip tightened around the phone. "You're disgusting." "I just thought you deserved to hear the truth," Celeste said smoothly. "If you ever want to talk, woman to woman, I'm here." Emily nearly threw the phone across the room. That was the last straw. The next morning, Evelyn Whitmore invited Emily to lunch in her private garden. She had sensed the storm building and wanted to offer support in the only way she knew how. Over delicate tea sandwiches, Evelyn sighed. "When I married Liam's father, there were temptations everywhere. People tried to tear us apart. It wasn't easy, but we fought for each other." Emily, her eyes rimmed with unshed tears, looked up. "How did you survive it?" Evelyn took her hand gently. "When two people truly love each other, they can overcome even the darkest times. But trust is everything. It may take years to rebuild, if it's possible at all." Her words lingered as Emily stared out at the manicured hedges, the weight of her decision pressing down on her like never before. The millionaire husband who had shattered her trust now had one last chance to prove he could rebuild it. Emily stared at the perfectly manicured rose bushes in Evelyn's garden, wishing for a life as simple and untouched as their delicate petals. She exhaled slowly. "I don't know," she whispered. "Some days I want to pack my bags and never look back. Other days, I remember the Liam I fell in love with, and I want that man to be the father of my child." Evelyn squeezed her hand. "That man still exists," she said gently, "but only you can decide if he's worth fighting for." Emily left lunch feeling slightly more resolute, but the reality remained. Her world was crumbling. Celeste's threats loomed, and Liam's betrayal still cut deep. Stability felt like an illusion. Meanwhile, with Robert Ellsworth's guidance, Liam orchestrated a public event under the guise of launching a major Whitmore Foundation initiative. The strategy was simple. Show a united front, weaken Celeste's leverage, and reassert control over the narrative. Emily, though reluctant, agreed. This wasn't about protecting Liam. It was about protecting their child's future. If standing beside her unfaithful husband kept their world from collapsing, she would do it. On a bright afternoon, they stood before the press at a newly renovated community center, one of Emily's philanthropic projects. Cameras flashed, capturing Liam's practiced confidence and Emily's poised elegance. She rested a protective hand on her baby bump, drawing admiration from the audience. To the world, they looked unshaken, an embodiment of wealth, power, and family unity. Liam delivered a passionate speech about the Foundation's commitment to uplifting struggling families. Emily added a few heartfelt words, her voice steady, though her heart wasn't. Applause erupted, and for a moment everything seemed under control. Until it wasn't. A voice cut through the crowd. "Mr. Whitmore, is it true you're having an affair with a European consultant named Celeste Romano?" A ripple of murmurs spread. Camera shutters clicked in rapid succession. Microphones thrust forward, eager for a response. Liam stiffened. Emily's hand clutched his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. Her body went rigid, her face pale. Liam forced a measured breath, then shook his head with practiced composure. "These are baseless rumors," he stated firmly. "My wife and I are fully committed to each other and to the child we are blessed to welcome soon." His voice was steady, his expression unreadable. But beside him, Emily's forced smile wavered, and in her glistening eyes, the world saw the pain of a pregnant wife betrayed by her millionaire husband. The press officer swiftly ended the conference, ushering Liam and Emily toward the waiting black Bentley. Reporters shouted over one another, desperate for a response, but the doors shut, sealing them away from the chaos. Inside the car, Emily broke down, burying her face in her hands. Liam reached for her instinctively, wrapping an arm around her, but she flinched. He clenched his jaw, silently cursing Celeste for the public spectacle that was now unraveling their lives. By the time they arrived home, the headlines were everywhere. Millionaire love triangle, Liam Whitmore's secret mistress exposed. Social media buzzed with speculation. Would Emily leave him? Did Celeste have more damning evidence? How would this scandal impact Whitmore Holdings? Within hours, Liam's once pristine reputation was stained. Investors flooded Robert Ellsworth's office with concerns about the company's future. Meanwhile, Emily was bombarded with messages, sympathy from friends, invasive questions from acquaintances, and cruel remarks from online trolls who absurdly blamed her for not keeping her husband satisfied. The relentless scrutiny took its toll. One night, Emily jolted awake, gasping in pain. Liam rushed her to the hospital, his heart pounding. The doctors confirmed the baby was stable, but warned that stress was pushing Emily's blood pressure to dangerous levels. If it continued, they might have to induce labor early. Liam felt something inside him snap. Enough was enough. The next day, he went to Celeste's hotel suite, flanked by 2 attorneys. "You've done enough damage," he said coldly, refusing to sit. A thick legal document landed on the table in front of her. "This is a settlement offer. Sign the non-disclosure agreement and you'll receive a generous financial package. But you will cut all ties with me. No more contact. No more media." Celeste's face burned with fury. "I told you, Liam, I don't want your money. I want you." His voice, steady but laced with finality, cut through the room. "That will never happen." He exhaled, staring her down. "I love my wife. If you ever cared about me at all, you'd let me protect her from this mess." Celeste's hands trembled. Then, in a flash of rage, she tore the settlement papers to shreds. "Get out," she spat. "Take your dirty money and go." Liam didn't hesitate. "We're done here." As he turned to leave, her voice cracked. "Liam, please." But he never looked back. The presence of his lawyers ensured there were no further meltdowns. The door closed, leaving Celeste alone, her ambitions in ruins, her carefully crafted plan shattered. She had risked everything for a man who, despite his moment of weakness, would always belong to his pregnant wife. And now, with her career at Whitmore Holdings in tatters and no one left to manipulate, she had lost everything. Celeste sat on the balcony of her luxury suite, staring at the glittering Manhattan skyline, her chest hollow with regret. She had lost everything. Her career was in shambles, placed on indefinite leave as Whitmore Holdings launched an internal investigation. The social circles she once floated through so effortlessly had turned cold, distancing themselves from the scandal. No one wanted to be associated with the woman who tried and failed to take down Liam Whitmore. Her phone buzzed. She hesitated, then saw the caller ID, Mama. For a brief second, she considered ignoring it, but at the last moment she swiped to answer. "Mama," she whispered. Her mother's voice was tight with worry. "Celeste, what are these headlines I'm seeing? A married American businessman? This is disgraceful." Celeste swallowed hard. "Mama, it's not what it looks like. I thought he loved me." There was silence, then a sigh laced with disappointment. Her mother scolded her for the shame she had brought upon the family, urging her to return to Italy and leave this humiliation behind. Then her tone softened. "My child, come home. You sound lost. We will figure out the rest." But Celeste couldn't imagine going back in defeat. She had built a life for herself here, climbed to the top, only to watch it all crumble beneath her. As the call ended, she sat alone on the balcony, silent tears streaking her face. Meanwhile, at the Whitmore estate, Emily's condition stabilized under strict bed rest. Liam barely left her side. He made sure she had everything she needed. Her favorite meals, soothing foot rubs, soft reassurances whispered late into the night. He read parenting books aloud, guided her through breathing exercises, and vowed daily that he would never betray her trust again. Slowly, Emily let him back into her space, though her heart still ached with the weight of his betrayal. One evening, as they lay in bed, she felt it, a strong, sudden kick. Her breath hitched. She grabbed Liam's hand, pressing it to her belly. The baby kicked again. They both froze, eyes wide with wonder. In that quiet, sacred moment, forgiveness felt possible. Not guaranteed, not easy, but possible. Emily turned to him, her voice unsteady. "For the baby's sake, I'll try. I'll try to mend this marriage, but I need to see real change, Liam. No more secrets, no more lies." Liam's throat tightened, emotion thick in his voice. "I swear, Emily, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be here for you and our child forever." As her due date approached, Liam knew words weren't enough. With Robert Ellsworth's help, he orchestrated a final move to bury the scandal. And this time, Celeste Romano would have no place left in their world. The official statement released in Celeste Romano's name denied the existence of any ongoing affair. Carefully worded, it implied that past rumors had been exaggerated or fabricated entirely. In reality, Celeste had never agreed to issue such a statement. Liam's legal team had forged her signature using an old HR document, a desperate but necessary legal maneuver. Robert Ellsworth hoped no one would dig too deep. Slowly, the tide of public opinion began to shift. Some believed the affair had been nothing more than a malicious tabloid rumor meant to tarnish the Whitmore name. Others simply lost interest, turning their attention to the next scandal. But the real breakthrough came when Emily made the bold choice to speak out. She agreed to an exclusive interview with Deborah Simmons, a respected journalist known for her fairness. From the warmth of the Whitmore estate's grand sitting room, Emily spoke with quiet strength. "Liam and I have faced challenges, just like any couple," she admitted. "The rumors have been painful, but our focus is on our family and the work that matters to us." Liam sat beside her, speaking only when necessary, letting Emily's grace and composure guide the narrative. The world saw a woman who, despite betrayal, carried herself with dignity. And just like that, the public's perception of Liam Whitmore shifted. No PR stunt could have done more to repair his image than Emily's unwavering strength. Meanwhile, Celeste was unraveling. Every attempt to contact Liam was met with silence. Selling her story to the tabloids seemed like an option, until she realized no major publication would take the risk. Whitmore Holdings lawyers had already begun circulating statements, warning against defamation. She had lost everything, but she wasn't ready to disappear just yet. Late one night, she made a final desperate gamble. Slipping past security when a delivery truck entered, she made her way to the Whitmore estate. She pounded on the massive front door, her tears smudging what little remained of her makeup. "Liam, open up!" Her voice cracked. "Please!" Liam jolted awake at the noise. Emily, clutching her belly in alarm, followed him cautiously down the stairs. When Liam opened the door, Celeste stood in the moonlit foyer, disheveled and broken. Her mascara streaked down her face, her once perfect hair tangled. For a moment, the three of them stood frozen. Celeste's voice trembled. "Liam, just talk to me. I lost my job, my friends. I have no one left. You can't abandon me." Emily stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "You need to leave." Celeste's red-rimmed eyes darted toward her. She let out a shaky breath, shoulders sagging in defeat. "You've won." But Emily didn't see it as a victory. She was the pregnant wife of a millionaire husband, and this wasn't the fairy tale ending people imagined. It was survival. Celeste's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm not trying to come between you two anymore. I just need help. I have nothing left. Maybe if I can get back home, I can start over." Liam exhaled, his emotions a tangled mess of pity and anger. He glanced at Emily, who held his gaze for a moment before offering the slightest nod. Despite everything, she wasn't the type to watch someone be completely destroyed. Liam turned back to Celeste. "I'll make sure you have what you need to get home," he said quietly. "But after that, we're done. No more contact." Celeste's breath hitched, and she nodded, her tears a mixture of relief and heartbreak. Emily turned away, feeling the sharp contrast of emotions, compassion for Celeste's despair, yet resentment for the betrayal that had nearly shattered her world. That night, Liam arranged for Robert Ellsworth to wire enough money for Celeste's flight and relocation costs. Within days, she was gone, vanishing from their lives like a storm that had finally passed. The tabloids moved on to their next scandal, and Whitmore Holdings stabilized. For the first time in months, peace settled over the Whitmore estate. Emily's final weeks of pregnancy were calmer, though uncertainty still lingered. She and Liam continued therapy, working through the fractures in their marriage. Emily let herself express her anger, her heartbreak, while Liam confronted his guilt head-on, vowing never to take her trust for granted again. Then one early morning in late summer, Emily went into labor. Liam's hands shook as he rushed her to the hospital, never leaving her side through the grueling contractions. In the waiting room, Evelyn Whitmore sat anxiously with close family and friends, whispering prayers. After hours of labor, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby girl, Olivia Grace Whitmore. Liam cradled their daughter for the first time, and tears streamed down his face. In that moment, he felt something shift within him. This was more than redemption. This was his chance to prove that love and family could endure, even after betrayal. Emily watched him, her heart swelling with cautious hope. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a new beginning, one built not on apologies, but on action, commitment, and honesty. In the weeks that followed, the Whitmore home filled with the soft sounds of a newborn and the quiet hum of healing. Liam took paternity leave, shocking his colleagues. For the first time, business expansion and profit margins seemed trivial compared to the weight of his daughter in his arms. Each night, as Emily watched him rise at 3 a.m. to rock Olivia back to sleep, she still felt the echoes of betrayal. But with every small act of devotion, the pain dulled just a little more. The millionaire husband, who once risked losing everything, now had a second chance to rebuild his life. Not with words, but with love. Emily watched as Liam stepped away from his latest business meeting to accompany her to a doctor's appointment. For the first time in a long while, she saw not just a businessman, not just a husband weighed down by guilt, but a man genuinely trying to atone for his mistakes. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. For now. One evening, as a final gesture of healing, Liam handed Emily a folder. Inside were dissolution papers for Whitmore Holdings' European division. "I'm restructuring everything," he explained. "Stepping back from that office. That's where it started, and it's tainted in my mind. We'll focus on expanding here in the US instead." Emily bit her lip, touched by the effort. "Thank you," she whispered, leaning her head against his shoulder as they watched Olivia coo softly in her crib. 5 years later, the Whitmore family had transformed into a picture of love and resilience. Emily had fully resumed her philanthropic work, launching the Whitmore Davis Foundation, dedicated to maternal health and women's shelters. Liam continued to lead his empire, but with a newfound balance, never letting ambition overshadow his devotion to Emily and Olivia. The scandal had long faded from the public's memory. Celeste Romano had disappeared, rumored to be living in Italy. Some whispered she had opened a boutique. Others speculated she had married into minor European nobility. Liam and Emily neither knew nor cared. Their focus remained on their growing family, with a second baby on the way. The past had left scars, but those scars became reminders, lessons in honesty, loyalty, and the fragile nature of trust in a marriage. No relationship is perfect, no person is without fault. But when a family stands together in truth, love can withstand even the darkest storms. And so concludes the harrowing journey of Liam Whitmore, Emily Davis, and Celeste Romano, 3 lives entangled in a web of love, ambition, and heartbreak. We've seen the bitter sting of betrayal and the unyielding resilience required to reclaim hope. Through painful confessions, looming scandals, and unexpected turns, Liam learned a hard lesson. Love demands honesty, loyalty, and sometimes a second chance. Emily, in turn, chose forgiveness. Not out of weakness, but from the belief that real love is worth saving, if the heart remains true. If this story resonated with you, share it with those who love gripping, emotional tales. Drop a like, subscribe, and stay with us for more dramatic stories that explore love, redemption, and the strength it takes to move forward. Because sometimes, the bravest act of all is forgiveness.